I guess every kid somewhere in the back of their head has a dream.
There's that song that gets you. As soon as you hear it, it's that song you can sing along to. It's got that big hook. It's got that big riff. To me, that's Amon Amarth.
It's crazy. They're a Swedish death metal band from a small town singing about Vikings, doing whole concept albums about Vikings. Typically not what you'd consider a commercial success, but they've done it.
Metal is all about having fun. You know, wherever you are, whatever type of metal you're into, whatever band you're watching, you should be having fun. And Amon Amarth do that better than so many other bands.
They're just a great heavy metal band, and one of the great heavy metal bands of the 21st century.
They are able to hit like an emotional chord with people.
We don't give a fuck, we go for it. It's maybe that kind of energy.
You put them on stage and magic just happens.
From start to finish, from the first row to the last row in that venue, you feel like you're part of that band. You feel that band is your band.
Amon Amarth is the Viking band.
I think the first song that I listened to that I really liked that I guess you can't call it metal, but it was kind of hard for its time, was actually the Beatles' Twist and Shout. I fucking love that song. I think I discovered heavy metal quite early actually, because a friend of mine had an older brother and he was into all these bands like Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Rainbow, AC/DC, and especially Kiss. For me, I think Kiss was like the gateway drug into metal, if you want.
All the older guys in the neighborhood were listening to bands like Kiss and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and stuff like that, so I guess it was inevitable that I would get into the same bands. The first album I actually got was from my parents, was a Kiss album.
I have a brother that's a little older than me, so I pretty much got into music thanks to him.
Yeah, this is my heavy metal scrapbook from when I was a kid. You know, I was into Metallica, Celtic Frost, Halloween, King Diamond, of course, SOD, Agent Steel. I didn't even know that I was into them, but obviously I was. Yeah, so in here I have some, you know, pictures when Iron Maiden arrived to Stockholm, and then the Metallica signings. Yeah, good stuff. I think I have some, you know, that's Phil Collins from Def Leppard. All the tickets to concerts. This is first time Napalm Death played in Sweden. So the funny thing is that you can actually see the, you know, I always liked all kind of metal. You see, 1988 you have Kiss, Alice Cooper, Slayer, Def Leppard, Napalm Death, Exodus, Nuclear Assault. So I mean, it's all kind of. It's not only like, yeah, I'm into the super heavy, or no, I'm only into the, you know.
I remember standing in front of a mirror with a tennis racket and pretending to be the band. My parents gave me an acoustic guitar, and I had to play that one for at least a year to show them that it was just not one of those things that you know, as kids do. They have like one day they're gonna play soccer, next day they want to do something else. This is probably at least 32 years old, and I think it got broken at least 3 times, and my dad fixed it with epoxy. But yeah, it's a, you know, can't throw that away. I think I started my first band when I was probably 14, I would say. Back then at school, they used to have this, it was kind of like a youth club, but you know, that had already instruments, and they also had somebody, you know, looking after the kids there. So you could book in like an hour a week after school to hang out and learn to play instrument. And that band was the band that eventually became Scum. It was just noise. I mean, at that point I had discovered the early days of death metal, and of course thrash with Slayer and Sepultura.
Rock and metal is for me, it felt like pure energy. It's just gave me adrenaline and just thrashing around. I was kind of an active child, I guess. I always got into all kinds of shit when I was really young. My parents' divorce was really tough on me because none of my friends had parents that were divorced. It was nobody really that I knew of in my school had parents that didn't live together. So it made me feel a little bit outside of everything, you know. Everybody else had their mom and dad, they were living together. Obviously that's changed now, you know. Now I guess most of my classmates from those days, their parents don't live together anymore. So it's kind of a weird, different thing. But my parents were the first that I know anyways that separated. So that kind of made it different for me, because I would go stay with my dad every other weekend, and growing up with a mom that had to work a lot, so I took care of myself a lot, and I never really thought about being in a band in the first place. I think the idea just came when I met Vesa and Olavi.
I went to Greece with Vesa.
I had a friend with me who met Olavi first time, and Olavi met him for the first time.
Obviously, it was a 2-week drinking holiday, really. Waking up and having a beer the first thing, and the last thing you did was have a beer before you went to bed. So that's kind of what we did. But then there was this metal bar, I forget what it was called now, in Kos, and they would play all these like old school metal, but also like the new trendy stuff, and like a good mixture of metal, really.
And there was a song played called The Final Countdown. And Ollie and I, like metalheads, we thought like, we can scream this out. So we screamed like 2 pigs. And then there was some roar coming from behind us.
I got really, really drunk, and I started growling along to a bunch of songs.
And we went like, well, okay, what is this? And obviously, Johan is a tall guy, so we have to look up.
I was like, wow, seriously, that's some really good growling, So I asked him if he wanted to, maybe start up Scum and start singing in my band.
So when we got back home, I came here to this place, Lagret, and started rehearsing with the guys.
My first real band was Eternal Oath. We're a bunch of guys from the neighborhood, and we were rehearsing at the same place, a floor below the band Scum. We were kind of like hanging out a little bit because we were rehearsing in the same place, and they would later ask me if I could play bass for them. There was a lot of member change going around at that time, so basically I was joining Scum, but it was very shortly after they actually switched name.
We had a number of band members move out. The music took a slightly different direction. We just felt it wasn't the same band anymore. We changed it originally to Niflheim, of course, which is from Norse mythology, but discovered like a month later that there was already a band called Niflheim. So we had to scrap that, and then Ted came up with Amon Amarth.
I was actually reading a lot of Lord of the Rings, Tolkien stuff at the time. So I was like browsing these books, trying to find something that was sounding cool. I mean, since Tolkien is also heavily influenced by the Viking Age, so it's kind of felt natural. But we ended up, weirdly enough, with something that was not Viking at all. We just found this Amon Amarth, and it sounded really mystic, it was a kind of cool vibe to it, and the meaning was Mountain of Doom, also sounded like cool. I just suggested that name, and I made a logo for it. I was working with a lot of different ideas, and actually started out doing one, a bit more pointy version, just black logo, that we used for the first demo cover. I would like cut and paste stuff, do a lot of artwork myself, taking photos, and then just tape it together and go to my dad's job to make copies on a Xerox machine. And this is like what we got here is the first, this is the original, the first version of the demo cover that we never used, with lyrics on the back side. So we use computer to do the writing and then piece it together.
All this, Lagret and all that meant a lot for the start of the band, because I don't think if we wouldn't have the opportunity to be rehearsing here or have the free instruments and all that we could borrow a couple of years earlier, I don't think maybe none of this would have happened. It's not only that there's a rehearsal place, you also could borrow the studio to record demos, and like behind me here is a stage that we could use for shows.
And I remember doing the first show and being like super nervous about it, and we did, I think, 3 or 4 songs, And it was packed. People would come from almost everywhere. So it would be maybe, I don't know, 300-400 people in this in this room, which was crazy, but it was fun. I actually also remember our second show here, because that show was headlined by Dissection, who had just come up with the Somberlane. And they played on our drums, and they had pig's blood in little plastic buckets with them that they tossed all over the place. And obviously the drum set was drenched in pig's blood, and our drummer didn't clean that off. I don't think he ever did, actually. It was there forever.
Our first demo was called Tora Rise. We didn't really like how it sounded, so we kind of, we never, distributed it to anybody, so we just kept it for ourselves.
I wrote like pretty much generic lyrics, metal lyrics, that I was inspired by, everything from Iron Maiden to Death to, I don't know, Nuclear Assault, Napalm Death, whatever, I tried to do all these kind of things, but I also wrote one lyrics that was based on my interest of Vikings, called Tora Rise. Even though that demo didn't really turn out the way we wanted to, it was kind of shitty. When we went back into the studio to record our second demo, we wrote songs that had Viking lyrics, because I started reading all these books that I read as a kid, again, like the Poetic Edda, the Egil Skallagrimsson Saga, the Njala, all those books, and I started coming up with ideas, and especially I took a lot of inspiration from the mythology. It was a huge interest of mine, but I think I found the confidence in using that as a topic by listening to Bathory, really, and Twilight of the Gods, and Hammerheart, and Bloodfire Death. Those albums I listened to a lot at that time. That kind of gave me the confidence to use that interest.
I think probably didn't reach that much outside of Sweden, but at least we started to get sort of a name that, we could start scoring shows outside of this place.
The only way to get it out to people was to make demo cassettes, and you would send it to journalists, to magazines and fanzines all over the place. And you would trade it with other bands and people within the scene.
I have here the demo from Amon Amarth. You can actually see that it's the old logo. The scene back in the day was pretty much all about writing letters and sending tapes back and forth all over the world. I remember I had contacts in Sweden, Norway, Switzerland, in the US.
It's very hands-on compared to how it is today. Basically you go click, all right, done.
When you wrote a letter to somebody, was it a band or a tape trader, you put all your energy into it, and you want to convince this guy to send tapes and trade with him, and you want to be a part of it. And that was my main driving force, to be in the scene, to get accepted, to be a tape trader, to be somebody who's doing shows, whatever it is.
And he wrote us and wanted to put on a show, and by that time we had released our mini CD, Sorrow Throughout the Nine Worlds.
Amon Amarth was one of those bands which was different. They had this Viking image, and that was kind of rare back in the day. I remember that Bathory had it, and some other bands, maybe from some heavy metal bands, but not from the death metal scene.
We booked tickets to fly down to Berlin and take a train from there to Weimar, which would be the first show.
The plan was just, you come down on that certain day, make sure you come down, and we make a show and you can just play.
Back then we were really happy party people.
I mean, we were just happy to get a show abroad, and we were drinking heavily already on the way to the airport going there.
We came to the venue too late, fucking so drunk we hardly could stand up. We went up on stage, started to sound check, but we were too drunk to even be able to play.
They were literally whiskey fucking drunk. And when I was looking at them, I was like, fucking, what the hell?
And we're just standing there playing one riff that we could do, which was actually the riff for the main riff for Victorious March that we just started writing at the time.
Yeah, there was no real, how do you say, like, we need to play a show, we need to remain sober until this show is taking place. It was just a big bunch of metal guys hanging around and talking with each other, drinking and waiting for a possible show.
We went to the basement where there were beds and we just went to sleep for a couple of hours, and then we went up and played 5 songs.
I remember that Johan was standing there with a big bottle of Jägermeister and hailing to the guys, and it was full. I think it was 300 people back in the day. And he was just emptying that bottle and just falling into the drum kit somehow. So it was dangerous, it was cool, and sound just sucked as far as I can remember. But no one really cared. Everyone was about just as the Swedish motherfuckers playing live, and that was cool.
I went to the university for a year, and then I got a job, but then I had to go into the military service, and we all did actually. That kind of put everything on a hiatus after the release of The Arrival of the Fimbul Winter. But we kept rehearsing, we kept writing stuff on our time off. And then coming out of the army, Olavi got a job as a carpenter, Ted was a painter.
Both me and Olavi were working in constructions before we quit our daytime jobs, and right here we were working right next to each other. So he was working in the building to my right here, building kitchens and putting in windows and stuff, and I was working in the other one as a construction painter. I would paint ceilings, put up wallpapers, and whatever needed to be painted I would do.
Usually we start work at 7 in the mornings, and you quit job by 4 o'clock, then home, grab some fast dinner, and then to rehearsal place, and then you're probably home by 10, 11 again, and then pretty much to bed to be able to go up the next day. I just worked and took all my vacation towards touring. But I always been lucky that I had a really cool boss. He really supported the music.
I had a little bit tough time getting a job because the market was kind of difficult for my specific area. I mean, if you're a builder or a painter, yes, you would have work, but for someone who had like a economic background but didn't go on to do further studies within the area, a little bit more difficult.
I got myself a job driving a delivery truck in Stockholm. And the very first job I did was, because it was one of those manpower things where the company actually rents out drivers to other companies who needs extra people because of, you know, people being sick or whatever. So the very first job I did for that company was actually delivering ice cream. I got there at, I think, like 5 o'clock in the morning, loading the truck up with the ice cream, and then just starting doing my deliveries. And it was like, I'd never done that before, so obviously it took a little while, probably longer than, you know, that it should have, but I was done around 6 in the evening, and by that time when I got back, there was no one at the depot where I could leave my paperwork and all that stuff. So I just dropped the car off, brought my paperwork with me back home, and decided to bring it in the next day. The phone rings, and it's my boss at the manpower thing, the manpower company, and he said, "Well, did you bring the paperwork with you back home?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "All right, I'm gonna come over and pick it up because they don't want you to come back." I said, "Oh, really? Yeah, somebody complained about your beard and stuff." Apparently, I did a really good job, but I don't know. There was something about the beard, I guess.
So my first apartment was up there on the 9th floor. I probably got it from 93. I think it was after the army. and I moved out maybe 98, and then Johan Söderberg took over the flat.
I had some kind of job that I was let off from, and then I applied for another job, and it was like actually in the cafe up here. I knew of the guys in the band, but I wasn't hanging out with them so much, but I knew who they were. I was out in the pub and I met Ted and Big J, and of course all three of us was pretty drunk. They just came over like, hey, we know you play guitar, you need to come with us on tour. So I took that like with a big pinch of salt, because yeah, that's just drunk talk, you know. After that day on the pub, I called Olavi, because I know that Olavi was kind of decided mostly in the band. So I asked him, oh yeah, I met some of the other guys in the band, and they said that you needed a guitar player. And he was like, yeah, come to the rehearsal place next Tuesday or whatever, and we try a couple of songs to see what happens. I had like a week to practice some songs, and then I went over there and yeah, we started rehearsing and felt good, and pretty much decided you can come on this next tour with us.
We had a really different approach to getting signed, because we said from the very beginning that we weren't going to send any demos or anything to a record label who didn't write us and ask for it. There were a couple of labels that were synonymous with quality death metal, and one of them was Nuclear Blast and the other one was Metal Blade, and obviously Earache as well. But those were the three big ones that we felt were like, all right, this is like big labels for a band like us. The first one that contacted us was actually Nuclear Blast from Germany, and we were just freaking out. That was so awesome, you know. But we tried to keep our cool a little bit, so we were like, all right, that's cool, and we were just thinking about it. And then maybe a week later, we got a contract offer from Metal Blade. And we're just blown away by the difference.
We took the contract we got from Nuclear Blast. We just took a marker and wrote on the first page on the fax the contract, is this a joke? And we faxed it back. And I remember the guy from Nuclear Blast, Michael Steiger, he called me way later that evening. It was probably almost night. And he was like, we can change everything. And I was like, hey, it's too late.
So the first time that I heard Amon Amarth, Martin Purr, who worked in our European office, had gotten their original EP and really liked it. So when I was over in the office in Germany, he said, hey, you know, there's this band from Sweden called Amon Amarth. I got their EP that I really like. What do you think?
If you release the first songs by Metallica and you sign bands like Cannibal Corpse and even Slayer, of course, you know who Brian Slagel is. He is a legend of the business.
I listened to it and thought, this is really great. Let's do something with them. And sure, soon enough, we made some things happen. And Michael Trenger, he was running our European office at the time, got in touch with them along with Martin, and we worked out a deal.
The first time I heard of Amon Amarth was Michael Trenger came to us and said, we've signed this great band. He goes, you've got to hear this. He was really excited about it. He had heard about them. Martin Purr had brought them to the label. But Michael was the guy that was championing them. We like to build careers. So when, you know, Martin brought it into the label and they signed it and Michael got behind it, you felt that passion. You know, you listen to the music, you're going, wow. And that's not what's popular at that point. Even in overall the music scene of what's going on. Here's this band coming from Stockholm, coming from the suburbs, a partying band. Are they going to excel? Are they going to get beyond a certain point? And you're going, wow, this is grunge time period. This is Pantera time period. This is Rage Against the Machine. They're everything that's anti what's going on out there. And you're going, you know what? They're taking a stance on what they're going to do musically.
Amon Amarth haven't always been popular in Sweden, and I think the reason for that is that they have Viking image. I think one of the reasons why people don't like Vikings here in Sweden, and the reason why we haven't had like a big Viking museum or anything until now, is because there are right-wing connotations.
All the other bands were singing about like blood and gore, or also the black metal scene was also starting to actually growing really big at the time. So it's either blood or zombies or Satan, and we didn't really feel that any of those subjects suited us.
Back then it was really controversial to write lyrics about Vikings. A lot of people associated it with right-wing politics, racism, which we were not. You know, we've never been anywhere near that. I think I first got into Vikings at the age of, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8. It began with, as far as I remember anyways, with my older stepsister. She wrote something on her wall in her room at the house in runic alphabet. It looked amazing. It was kind of magical because it didn't resemble anything that I knew of. Then I found this awesome series of books called Valhalla. It's by Danish cartoonists and authors. They made like these comic books about the mythology with Viking gods and all that stuff. So that's kind of where it started. When it became the theme of the band, it felt very natural. It felt like it fit the music, and it was something that I knew something about, which I could write about. The foundation of the interest was always the historical and the mythological part, and it had nothing to do with politics. But we would be lumped in with all these bands that kind of were all these like right-wing nationalist bands, which was difficult, but we were hard-headed. You know, we didn't want to let these bastards take this away from us. We love this stuff, you know. So we felt that we had a right to it.
It was a bit of a fight in the early days. You know, I remember when we signed our first deal with Metal Blade Records. They were also, you know, worried, you know, that this would affect the band's, you know, career. So we had to make sure that we would show them that this is like our history, and this is it's far away from the right-wing scene and stuff.
Well, the first recording we did for Metal Blade was, to put it mildly, it just turned to shit.
We recorded the first mini CD at Abyss Studios with Peter Tätgren. And then when we got signed to Metal Blade, when we were recording our debut album, we kind of felt like we wanted to stay in Stockholm.
We can, you know, go in the subway and just hang out in Stockholm and have a good time and save some money.
So we went for Sunlight Studios.
Which is a legendary studio because they produced, you know, a lot of Entombed albums, a lot of the early 90s stuff when it comes to metal really in Sweden.
I think after, you know, when we were almost done, I had to talk to Thomas, the guy who owns the studio, and said, hey man, this doesn't sound good at all. And he was like, yeah man, don't worry about it, we're gonna fix it in the mix. And you know, what the fuck do I know about recording? So I was like, all right, it's gonna be good in the mix. And then, you know, after the mix, I was like, hey man, doesn't sound good. I was like, don't worry, I'll fix it when we master it. And I'm like, what's the next step? You're gonna fix it on the album cover?
So when we had the finished product in our hands, we listened to it and we're like, we can't release this. This is just fucking shit.
And then he said, well, you know, because I said, like, you know, the guitars, they sound so thin. There's no chunkiness. You know, they're not heavy enough. And he said, well, that's because you can't play heavy. We're talking about an open note, you know.
We decided to grab the bull by the horn and just call Brian Slagle up and say, hey, listen, this album, it's shit. The recording process went like this and this, it's just bullshit.
Luckily for us, Brian Slager agreed that we could re-record the album. So basically we recorded the most expensive demo I called Peter Tägtgren, and he was like, yeah, sure, come here and we do it again.
There is this story about this good luck stone. It goes back to, we went to a Viking market at a mansion south of Stockholm, and we bought some different stuff, and Olavi decided to buy a red granite stone that had been like, I think it had been cut in half, and then they had like carved out like a Odin's knot. We brought that stone with us as a sacrificial stone, so we would pour like beer on top of it to make sure we got a good recording and all that nonsense. We had it during the recording, but when we packed our stuff up and went back home, we forgot it in the studio. Every time we meet Peter, he says, oh, when are you gonna come up and like get your stone out of my fucking studio? And it's like, oh, well, you know, we'll make it up there someday. And last time we met him, it's like, yeah, you really need to come get that stone now, because since you left it up there, you have had nothing but good luck. But me, I've had terrible luck. My life is shit since I got that stone. So I guess it was a good thing to leave it there for us anyways, maybe not for Peter.
Oh, here we go. Who the hell is this? God damn it. Pizza!
Pizza. Pizza. Sten, tack.
Åh, stenen. Jävla sten. Vänta. Fucking stone, I hate this shit. Here's the disease. Here you go. Thank you. Bye. No, I'm kidding. My thought was really they were rough around the edges, you know. I had a lot to learn, they had a lot to learn, you know, but after the next album, they really kind of got their own unique sound, you know. After a couple of albums, they definitely stepped a different direction. And also, you know, with the stuff they were singing about, it was not too many bands. I mean, Bathory, of course, at the end there, were doing what they're doing. But it wasn't too many bands was doing that stuff. And I really think that helped them as well to step outside of all the other bands. Not only the music, you know, but also what they were singing about. So I thought it was really unique.
Our dream was to be, you know, musician for real, be a professional. But I don't really think I saw it that way. To me, it was just, you know, having fun. Because I couldn't really see this gonna, you know, last this long. I never thought we would make it to this level where we are today anyway, so.
After the Crusher, we pretty much felt that we were standing still as a band. There was a couple of reasons for it. I think we had the perception that we were the best band in the world, or at least as good as many other bands out there.
Up to that point, we've been doing support tours, and we felt like we had a really good response, and we really thought that we were the shit. But then during the Crusher cycle, we started to do our own tours that we were headlining, and it didn't work at all.
Yeah, we tried to stand on our own legs when we were not ready.
We barely made it around the whole tour. So it was just, you know, a number of things that we felt was unfair to us. I think what happened was that after that tour, we were humbled and realized that, all right, we're not as big as we thought we were, and we're not moving as fast as we thought we were. So is it worth it to keep doing this? I mean, by then, we'd been a band for 10 years. All the extra money we made, all the extra time we had, vacations, holidays, everything went into basically building the band, either writing material, recording material, or touring. And on top of that, having full-time jobs. So obviously it was a big effort for us that we put into it.
our regular jobs were kind of taking us too much time to be able to continue a band on that level.
I think when we went into writing Versus the World, we went in with the notion that this will be the end. So that was actually the working title of the album. That's going to be our last album, because it was the last album on the contract of Metal Blade as well.
It felt kind of sad, to do that, but we didn't have any energy or anything left. It just felt like, fuck this.
If that album was not going to be successful enough to make us do that full time, then it probably would have been the end for the band.
Up to that point, all our albums, they had this fire theme. We thought like, all right, this one's gonna be like, it's all gonna be burned out. It's just gonna be ashes. The logo's gonna be in ashes and all that.
So all the songs on there is about Ragnarok and the end of the world, and everything is burning, and it's just a pile of ashes everywhere. That was the whole concept of the thing.
I actually got an injury at work, and I was home for almost half a year. And all I did was write songs, basically.
As we kept writing, I think we felt that the material was pretty strong.
It kind of felt like, maybe this album is, maybe this is too good to be the last album.
And somewhere along the line, I think it kind of changed. The title of the album changed to Versus the World, because that's kind of what we felt that we were doing. It was us against everybody else, We felt like the fucking genuine underdog. I'm not sure if that's true, it's just the way we felt.
The first show on that album, I think, was at Wacken, actually. And then we saw the completely different reaction from the crowd.
I'm Thomas Jensen. I'm one of the organizers of the Wacken Open Air. It's a festival in the north of Germany. And it's a lot metal bands playing here, and a lot metal fans are coming. Amon Amarth is the Viking band. We don't give a fuck, we go for it. It's maybe that kind of energy.
Always take a look at the progression of a band album by album, but you take a look at the progression of the individuals and the band themselves, because that's going to tell you whether they've got the long-term drive to be successful. And that's not always an easy thing to see in an artist when you just sign them or going in there. There's little things that you will see in the course of them touring, or in their music, or in each album. There were usually certain standout songs that told you there's a potential there. If they take this and take it a next step further and a next step further, They're starting to find their sound, the Amon Amarth sound.
That album came out great. Everybody loved that album.
That's when things really started to happen for us, that we actually got shows that we were headlining. We actually have some responsibility now.
So now we actually felt like, hey, there's something to build on here. We should continue this path.
We're gonna give it one last try, and this time we do it, you know, we just straight ahead, no looking backwards.
We're gonna do this full time, and if that means that we have to quit our jobs, so be it, you know. We all had full-time jobs, and we needed to take a lot of time off for touring and all that stuff. But we said the band comes first, and let's go for it. Let's do this like full out. And
Big J already left his job. I think maybe Johan Söderberg also left his job. So it was kind of like, okay, now it's fucking real, you know.
The fate of Norns await us all.
Every band at some point has to make a decision whether this is going to be part-time or this is going to be your career. And for Amon Amarth, that came, if I remember correct, right about Fate of Norms, about 2004. You could hear it on the record. You could see it in the band.
It's better to go out with a bang than to kind of just fade away. And so that was kind of the whole mental thing about it. And then recorded that album, which again maybe didn't come out the way we wanted to, but it did produce a couple of songs that really pushed us further in a career, and then we could continue from there.
Well, I think when you talk about Amon Amarth's career, like where did they kind of make that turn to kind of become, you know, more of who they are today? I think you have to look at Fate of Norns. I got the original mixes for Fate, and it was good, but I clearly tell that they were heading in a bit of a different direction. It's more melodic. There's some really catchy songs on there. Like, ooh, this is really good. But the sound wasn't quite there yet. They mixed it, but I felt the mix wasn't really great. So, and before, you know, the other three records they kind of just made on their own, and you know, I listened to them and thought they were great, but I didn't really have any sort of input in them. But this record, I got it, and I thought, can't let this go out sounding like this. So I went back to them and said, hey, I think this record is really great. I think we have something really, truly special here. But I think we need to kind of make it sound a little bit better. And to their credit, they're like, okay, great, you know, what do you think? And they went back and redid it and made it sound better. And that's really, I think, the turning point where they kind of went from being that early, super, you know, more heavy death metal band to kind of where they are today.
We're in a gambling business. You go to Vegas, people go to the craps table. If you're in the record business, you know what? You're gambling on bands. You're gambling on their ability to be successful and your ability and your talent to say, you know what? That band has a potential to do something. Michael Trengert saw that.
The first 2-3 albums we did for Melodic, he was, you know, just like anybody else, more or less. But I think then around Versus the World, he really started to, you know, take us under his wings.
You don't usually have the record label boss as a manager. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be, you know. You have a manager working towards the record label to make good deals and stuff like that. But for us, he was like kind of like the band's big brother.
Someone who would help you out and come up with good ideas and kind of guide you through the hassles of being in a band and all that stuff.
At that time, we start to see some money coming in, but it's barely enough to pay the rents back home. But still, we felt that it was a good decision, like he suggested, to put more money into the show to make the band grow even more, and like always look to the future.
Before we did With Odin on Our Side, we did the Wrath of the Norsemen DVD, and Michael's contribution to this was very important, because his vision was to create like a big show with lots of stuff going on, like on stage, with a proper production, which we never really had before. And he also came up with the idea to do a part of the show where we actually had Vikings on stage. And the first idea was actually just to have people in Viking outfits stand on stage while we played certain songs, come up on stage and almost be like part of the set, the stage set. So we had a competition that went through the German Metal Hammer.
Back in 2005, Amon Amarth approached us if we could help them to cast some people for a video shoot. And the thing was that they were looking for real Vikings. So what we did with Metal Hammer in Germany was the thing that we wrote out a competition or an application, how you can ever call this, like Super Viking Wanted.
A group of people who contacted us was the Joms Vikings, the Blutfrieden from Germany. It turned out that they were like a reenactment group who basically did live fighting. So we invited their group to be on stage and to do a full-on battle during the set. Technically, they would beat each other up. Fucking rough. I mean, it was intense to see that for the first time. I didn't know anything about that stuff at that time, because it wasn't like role playing or live or anything. This was actually fighting. You know, that's Michael's idea basically, and he took it even further later in our career, as he proposed that we would build a Viking ship for the Summer Breeze show in 2009, I think it was. So he's like the first guy that actually kind of thought of us as something bigger than just a death metal band.
You know, the music business is not the easiest place to find people that you get along with and trust. And Michael was one guy that those guys completely got along with and trusted. And you know, every question they had for him, he would answer, and he was usually right about stuff that they were doing and kind of helping them along the road. And it really became a really super important, critical member of our team and certainly of Amon Amarth. And I don't believe, and I'm sure the band will echo this, I don't believe they would be nearly as big as they are now if it wasn't for Michael.
Being around Michael was always fun, you know that you knew there was always something that's going to happen. He was very loud and always very happy guy, and you know he would make things happen. You know, if it was boring, he would find something fun. You know.
I saw Michael as one of my best friends, and especially for people in the music industry, he was probably my best friend. Towards the end of his life, when he knew, you know, he had illness, he sort of started to prepare our future without him. He sent me all kind of notes. He called me all the time and gave me, you know, heads up, you know, next time you're gonna deal a new contract, think about this and that, and you know, for merchandise, think about that and that. So I just made a bunch of notes, and you know, and that's, you know, shows how much really he cared about us during his, you know, end days.
He was a close friend, and I think when he passed away, it really it was a shock for all of us, I think. Because I think it's like it's kind of like the way you see your parents, right? When you're a kid, you don't think your parents will ever be able to die. You know, they're going to be there forever, right? But they're not. And unfortunately for us and for Michael's family and friends, his time came way too early. But it's well, it's been a. I count myself fortunate to be able to call Michael one of my friends, and I think we all feel the same way.
Yeah, I think he would be super proud to see where we are today. I mean, he was still around when we had pretty big success, but the last couple of years has been the most successful of the band. So I'm pretty sure he sits up there in Valhalla somewhere, and
he became a partner in Summer Breeze. I don't remember when, but it was at some point. And of course, because of that, also, that's one of the reasons why Summer Breeze is one of the festivals that we always, or every second year, we play there.
I think it's hard to overestimate his importance in the history of this band.
Guten Abend, Summer Breeze! Man, it's good to see you people again. It's always a pleasure coming here playing. Because this is home to us. More than you people know. And this show today is a tribute to that fact. I wish I could speak this word in German, aber leider mein Deutsch ist nicht gut genug. So I'll have to stick to English and hope that you guys understand how important it is for us to be here tonight and to play this stage, the Mr. T stage. Because Michael Trengert was an important part of this band. And sadly, he left us way too soon. Immer verpasst, nie vergessen. So we wanna dedicate this to our dear friend, unserem lieben Freund, Michael Trengert. And this next song is called With Odin on Our Side, but it may well have been with Michael on our side. So this one goes to you, Michael. Feel it not, summer breeze! Yeah!
When I first talked with Michael about it, I realized how they take care about the real history. And I think that's a big part what a lot of fans like about it, that it's not just a story because it's in or it's the latest thing. They really live for that Vikings thing and they really know a lot about it and they tell the stories how they were, and I think that's the important thing. It's not just because of making money, it's their thing, their story to tell, and yeah, I think that's why a lot of people like the band, because it's honest what they do.
Sana and the Joms Vikings, they've kind of become like a family to us. They've become a very important part of the band. You know, it's they've been with us for a long time now, doing stuff together. They live the Viking thing for real. You know, we're just singing and writing about it, but I mean, we feel this connection. You know, how it's all about like honesty and hard work, and we kind of connected very, very much over the years, and it's like a bond you will have for the rest of your life.
Ein Preisausschreiben in der Metal Hammer, ich weiß nicht, 2002, 2003. Und der Cedric, also einer von unseren Brüdern, der hat bei diesem Preisausschreiben mitgemacht. Die haben Wikinger gesucht, oder die besten Wikinger für auf die Bühne. Na gut, und da haben wir halt die besten Sinn. Da haben wir den Job gekriegt, keine Ahnung. Das war der Erstkontakt, 2003, glaube ich. Ja. Und ja, das erste Mal getroffen haben wir Amon Amarth in Köln. Bei dem Dreh für die DVD Wars of the Norseman, ja. Ja, warum machen wir das hier? Ich hab damit angefangen damals wegen dem Schwertkampf. Also ich wollte mit dem Schwert kämpfen, oder kämpfen lernen. Und daraus ist dann für mich immer mehr geworden. Dann habe ich halt Wikingerkultur entdeckt, habe mich da eingelesen, habe mich da informiert. Und bin dann auf die ersten Mittelaltermärkte gefahren, habe mir eine komische Klamotte zusammengestellt, ziemlich schlecht, um ehrlich zu sein. Aber gut, ist halt auch schon ewig her. Und ja, ist dann so, ne, von Markt zu Markt, von Veranstaltung zu Veranstaltung ist die ganze Sache halt besser und größer geworden. Und hier sieht man das Ergebnis. Jetzt. Oder?
Ja.
Ja.
Handwerklich sich weiterentwickeln war auch ein Punkt, warum viele
Schmieden.
das Hobby machen. Schmieden, Bronze gießen, nähen. Und für mich ist es auch Training mit dem Schwert, das richtig zu lernen, wie es damals gemacht worden ist. Aber auch Vergleiche zu ziehen mit den Techniken, Ideen auszuprobieren. Und das ist sehr interessant und man kann viel ausprobieren.
Anderer Punkt für mich jedenfalls ist hier, wenn ich hier bin, also hier an der Stelle hier ist halt null Handyempfang, kein Internet, gar nichts. Man hat seine Ruhe, seine Zeit, ist eine Flucht aus der normalen Welt. Also finde ich jedenfalls so ein kleiner Urlaub weg aus dem stressigen Leben, aus der hektischen Zeit.
Man nimmt sich kurz eine Auszeit vom
genau.
hektischen Leben. Ja. Man kann alles vergessen hier, was mit Beruf zu tun hat.
Ja, ich lasse halt einfach mein Leben erstmal für ein paar Tage einfach da, wo es ist, zu Hause. Hier bin ich anders. Hier bin ich vielleicht sogar freier, keine Ahnung. Ja.
Ehre, Gerechtigkeit und flüchten sich so.
Ganz normale Menschlichkeit.
I came into the Viking life when I started listening to metal music. And then I discovered Amon Amarth. They sung a lot of stories about Viking sagas and stuff. Then I met the Viking group and I really got the feeling, this is my home.
I think it could be actually that it does represent, that the Viking culture represents this old community, the brotherhood, the tight-knit community that kind of is lost in a way today. But I think also actually what kind of appeals to a lot of fans when it comes to Viking history and mythology in music is the fact that they're actually real. They actually existed, and they did all this stuff, and they had these stories, and they wrote these poems and all that stuff. They carved this giant, rune stones and telling about their deeds and all that stuff. And they did travel the world. But if you compare that to maybe a band that will be more into fantasy stories and stuff like that, sure, it could be fun, but I mean, there's no bottom to it. There's nothing behind it. The stories, really. It's just a figment of imagination. But here you actually have a rich history and mythology behind it, which is, I think, fascinates people in like a lot of people in general. I also think the fact that is that our friends just likes to come to the show and have a good time and listen to the music that we play.
Are you with us, Summer Breeze? This is Valkyries of Mikkelgård. Come on! Are you ready?
All right, well, yeah, the epic Viking row. Yeah, the first time we saw that ever happening was at Bloodstock, 2009, I think.
It was very, very interesting the first time they played Bloodstock. Obviously, they were one of the bands of the weekend. You never expect a band, you don't know how it's going to go down when you've never had a band play the festival before. They literally took the crowd by storm. A few fans started to get on the floor and start rowing as though it was Viking rowing. And within minutes it took on. There were 10 people to 50 to 100 to 300. I think even the band were blown away with this Viking rowing that started. They'd never even seen it before until Bloodstock.
I remember seeing that and I was just fucking laughing my ass off, and I think we all were, because it was so amazing.
When people saw that on YouTube, then it was like a ball starting rolling.
And it spread across the world, really, into this big thing where now you play festivals where like hundreds or thousands of people sit down and start rowing all of a sudden. And you go like, all right, that's fun, man. It just goes to show what amazing fans we have.
The lineup has been changed a little bit during all these years, but the way I see it, the early days, that was just finding the right people.
Olavi called me. Actually, first he sent me an email and said we need to talk. And that was when I was supposed to go to my former job. And I couldn't eat breakfast, I couldn't eat lunch. I couldn't do anything very well that day because I was so fucking nervous because he was gonna call me that afternoon. I got home from my job and he called me. And I was like, this is it, I have to make a good impression. There are no real words to my feelings of this happening at all. I mean, it was just too overwhelming, flattering, of course.
I think the reason we chose Jocke was that, I mean, obviously he knows how to play the drums. So I think for a band like us that we tour so much, we need somebody that you actually can, can actually hang out for months and months. And it's not all, I mean, even though I think it's the most important thing is personality.
I'm really proud of what I have become because I
did my time in smaller bands, and this position that I have now is the best thing ever happened to me.
They're definitely one of the more prepared bands that come into the studio. They tend to bring a very almost finished template of ideas that they've got. You know, they'll have demos which are really mapped out. All the guitar parts are pretty much worked out. Probably the most work we do is sort of refining the vocals, trying to find a bit more, believe it or not, melody that we can put into the vocals, and a bit of a different sort of attitude with the timing.
Raise your horns for a brave fallen friends. We will meet in Valhalla again.
With Johan's vocal style, it's pretty good actually. He's not blowing his voice out when he's doing that. I mean, although it sounds really aggressive, I think he's got a good control on it. So you'll get a good couple of hours out of him doing that style of stuff, you know, a day, and then maybe sort of 2 or 3 days down the line, we'll have to have a day off just to let him, you know, just relax and get the top end back to his voice. So really, I've got things within Pro Tools, I've got a mix happening in there. I'm splitting it out and coming up the desks separate. So I've got just reverbs coming in on sort of 1 and 2. I've got the drum mixers there. And I've got kick and snare. Toms on those two, so overheads coming in stereo there. Good bass sound actually, I'm quite impressed with that. The Music Man bass, that, I think. You've got main guitars coming up a stereo pair, so. I call that gondola music, you know. They're all very easygoing and polite. I haven't had any issues where there's been any sort of bad vibes in the studio at all, actually. So, you know, even when they're all here for 6 weeks, 2 months, all in, you know, they're obviously so used to being around each other. So there's no real friction in the band, which you usually do see within sort of 6 weeks of them all being together. Ollie's very sort of jovial straight off the bat. He reminds me of sort of an old English gentleman, actually. He's very sort of, you know, rosy cheeked and got a beer in his hand straight away. And Sonny's a little bit more sort of laid back and chilled out, but still quite dry in his humour. We went out to war and strive to protect. You know what we're doing backing vocal-wise there? Wider on the backing vocals, the vocal in the middle. Ollie had the idea for Raise Your Horns, and they were like, oh, is it too cheesy? And there's always that discussion with things, you know, is it too cheesy? And no, it's meant to be, you know, metal is meant to have a bit of fun to it. It's not all full on, you know, aggression. And I think, you know, you've got a bunch of grown adults talking about Vikings, and you've got to think, actually, there is a bit of fun there, you know. And I think the whole, you know, drinking song, I mean, summer festivals, you've got them, haven't you, with that? Some drunk Swedes, not for the first time. I think we've got some keys under that as well, actually. That's blended in, yeah. That's programmed. That's the Swedish contingency there.
To the sky, we will drink to glory.
I've got one track here called Pissed Up. I don't know what that is. What is that? Oh, that's that one. Yeah.
I don't think I ever noticed the growth of the band since we always took so small steps. We're not like one of those bands that make it over one night. So for me, it's all been so natural because we always made these small steps. So I guess you get blind and don't really see how much you've grown.
I'm Christian Underberg, and my family owns the company who produces the Underberg. It's only water, medical plants and alcohol, so it really does something with you and your health. And I say it's very good for the inner environment. This wonderful group came up and had a show to do it close to our home, and they asked to visit our founder's house. And so we had a reception for them. We had a lunch together with my youngest daughter, and they were so kind to invite her for the show and took her backstage, and she said, they are really gentlemen. Amon Amarth likes Underberg so much that even we branded the truck for them. They really support our brand, and I think that's a good combination. Cheers. It's not a party drink, but it is something which puts you in a good shape and what really helps you also digesting heavy food, not heavy metal.
That'll put it hard in the chest.
Yeah, it will. Oh, I can feel it coming out now.
Amon Amarth means to me, it's beautiful music, it's powerful, yeah, it's best wake-up music. I saw them at Rock am Ring the first time and I was just pretty in love.
To me, Amon Amarth means good music and good beer for sure, good shows. Amon Amarth was the first metal band without clean singing that I really listened to, and it's my favorite band and I love their energy.
This is our 10th wedding anniversary. We are from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Among of all the places in the world to celebrate, we chose to be here in Summer Breeze 2017, mainly for Amon Amarth!
Amon Amarth are a great band. I like them very much because they charge you, they give you energy. They concert, everybody screams, vocals, and there's a mass, a strong, energetic mass.
Awesome! Yeah!
2009, my second Bloodstock, I saw Amon Amarth playing and I thought, why not turn my chair into a longbow? And ever since then, it's a tradition. Every Bloodstock I've come in this. It's introduced me to a lot of the old Norse mythology, and I've found my touring through that. Live by your own rules, do what feels good, and just drink mead.
It's crazy. They're a Swedish death metal band from a small town, singing about Vikings, doing whole concept albums about Vikings. Typically not what you'd consider a commercial success, but they've done it, and I think they've done it through the craft of songwriting.
It's actually incredibly ingenious to be able to keep writing songs about that subject
that actually resonate with people. You know, it's a very specific historical period, you know, and obviously we love Vikings because they're hairy and they have big mallets and axes and they fight and all the rest of it, but actually to in the same way that Iron Maiden introduced a lot of young kids to notions of, you know, being interested in history, I think Amon Amarth have done that with Viking culture and Viking history, you know, which is surprising in itself, especially when heavy metal fans are supposed to be not interested in things like reading. You know, we're all supposed to be stupid, but actually, you know, incredibly literate, apart from me, obviously.
It just works, and whether you kind of choose to delve into their lyrics and the amazing amount of detail and the research and knowledge that goes into everything they write about, or you just want to come and raise a beer or a horn of beer and just have a good time, they just give you an opportunity to just let loose and lose your shit for a couple of hours. And I think that's what metal at its absolute core should always be about, and I just think they do it so well, and it's been amazing to see them get to a point where they can now do that in front of tens of thousands of people out on tour. It's been a really amazing thing to see.
I think that one reason why Amon Amarth have become so popular is because they're such a strong live act. They all do like what Tom Araya did 25 years ago, all of them, and they're gonna probably end up, you know, being with stiff necks, and I don't want to even know how their necks look on an X-ray.
Amon Amarth for me is one of the examples at this point in time where we're all looking where are the next headliners. Is an example. They started out at the Wacken Festival in 1999 and now they're headlining, so that's 17, 18 years. It's doable, yeah? So every band in the world should think of it's doable. They had a strong will to do it, and they had good ideas, and they were stubborn enough, maybe it's similar to the Wacken thing, stubborn enough not to give up.
I definitely think that part of Amon Amarth's success is because of our work ethic that we got from the jobs that we had before. I mean, in many ways we are very blue collar. We come from a blue collar background, basically, where I mean, even though my parents, my dad was a policeman, my mom used to work in the supermarkets. We all kind of have working class background, and I think we all were instilled with a sense of doing your job, not complaining, and do your job as good as you can, and you know, just yeah, that's it. And I think we brought that into the band as well, to be a very high work ethic, basically.
To actually have a #1 album in Germany was kind of a crazy experience. We were very close with the previous album, but I mean, have a #1 album in any country, and especially in Germany, that's such a big goal, you know.
If somebody would have told me a Swedish death metal band singing about Vikings would have a #1 in Germany in 2016, I would tell them, actually, this is how did this happen? That's crazy. The important and actually strange part about that release was that Amon Amarth did not have the mainstream or the big stations in Germany. We did not use radio. Well, we had radio support within the rock and metal radio lists, but not really radio, no TV, no big mainstream media. Actually, we did that release within the core rock and metal press, and that makes it, you know, even more special because that success was made out of the core scene and actually the core media.
Amon Amarth's success says about rock and heavy metal that you can't kill rock and heavy metal at all. That there is a genuine, great and big audience there that likes this kind of music, and there is younger people digging into that kind of sound more and more. So to everybody out there who are thinking rock is dead, metal is dead, fuck you.
I think heavy metal survives and will always survive because it's not trend sensitive. I mean, it is in a way, because there's always going to be people getting into it and getting out of it, but the core of the metal fans are always going to stay true to being metal fans, no matter where life takes you. And you can see this when you go to like an Iron Maiden concert.
Yeah, and it's just like a weird kind of, just a weird, that was terrible. Everything all right?
Yeah. All good.
Tonight we're gonna see Iron Maiden, and Iron Maiden is one of my favorite bands. They've always been one of my favorite bands. And it kind of feels surreal to one day you're on stage yourself, and the next day you're in the audience. It's a fucking honor to be able to see one of my favorite bands. Usually I'm in the pit like everybody else.
For me as a frontman to come to a show and stand back and watch someone else perform, especially someone as brilliant as Bruce Dickinson and the whole Iron Maiden band, of course, is just a pleasure. You know, it's I think that goes for all of us in the band. We're metalheads through and through. We've loved this band since we were kids, and to be able to come to this show and watch it is it's amazing. Like a good fucking metal show is where the band and the fans interact and become one, and to me that's what you get when you go to an Iron Maiden show, and that's what I and the rest of the guys want to do with an Amon Amarth show as well, to invite everyone to the show and have a good fucking time together.
There are fans of all ages coming there, and you know, we've met people who are attorneys, policemen, bankers, you know, real estate agents, whatever, you know, from any segment of life who come to our shows, and you can see that almost at any metal show.
In the 2000s, I came across Amon Amarth and I said, oh my God, you know, Sweden is really punching way above their weight in metal. And, you know, I ordered a couple of their albums, and it was from there I was hooked.
Yeah! Woo!
I've seen them so many times that I haven't got sick of them yet. And I'm going to say that I'm going to hopefully see them a lot more times. During the day, we're all in our suits. We're suited and booted, ties, the whole works. And then at night, we're ripping off the suit into the metal garb and out. And usually what we do is we have a really nice, go to a nice restaurant, wherever we are, have a decent meal, and then off to the show. I've seen them all over the place. I've seen them in Ireland. I've seen them in New Jersey. Seen them in New York, seen them in California, seen them in Tampa. And the beauty about seeing these guys is it's not the same show every time. It's a different show. They really put their heart and time and effort into the show, regardless of where it is.
The fans is probably the biggest reason why metal will never go away, because even if we're not in any kind of mainstream media, we're not on TV, we're not on radio, we're not on, you know, whatever else, you know, else kind of media. We're not in the newspapers. We kind of have our subgenre of newspapers, of course, but the fans are what makes metal, and the fans are the ones that are going to make metal survive. I think the metal community is one of the most open-minded and welcoming communities there is. Metal fans want to have fun listening to the most brutal music you can imagine, but they want to have fun and party, and I think that's also like a key element of that. think it's hard to say why Amon Amarth is here after 25 years. I mean, we've had our ups and downs. We've had our differences in the band. But when it really came down to it, I think one of the key things is that we've been able to stay friends throughout the whole career. And sure, I mean, there's been some changes in lineups and stuff, but the core group has always kind of been able to stay friends and respect each other even when we don't agree. And even when it really comes down to almost fisticuffs, afterwards we can shake hands and let it go.
Everyone is so easygoing. We can talk about everything, we can discuss everything, we can scream at each other.
That's the most important thing, to be friends and actually, you know, respect each other and you know, to be able to make it, you know, it's gonna be honest. You can't really fake it, not that part.
They are probably best of friends, like that's what I witnessed. And you know, they have a good feeling with each other. They all probably want the same, so they have one goal. That's probably very important. And I think they are great musicians, and they still, you know, have a lot of fun. You know, sometimes when you reach, you know, 25 years, maybe it's getting boring, but I think they are more excited than ever doing a gig, you know, doing a big tour. They're so happy when something goes well, you know, they really care, and they're a fucking great band. You know.
We want to continue this as far as we can take it, you know. We want to see how far we can actually, how big can you make a band that plays death metal. You know, we've reached pretty far, but I think there's still room for more Amon Amarth in the world.
I definitely feel a lot of pressure. You know, we always had the saying in the band that each album should top the one before. And you know, after 10 albums, it's kind of hard to come up with stuff to top everything you have done before. But also, the more we do this, the better craftsmen we become at making songs.
Most of all, I still have passion for this, and I think as long as you have passion and you feel that you have something that you know, you have some good stuff you want to share with other people, then why not?
Well, the next 25 years of Amon Amarth actually doesn't really concern me. I try not to look ahead too much. Try to look at what's in front of me, and once you get to the next step and what that step's going to be, then you deal with it. But don't skip ahead too much. Pay attention to where you are. In relation to other bands that have been around for, you know, 50 or 60 years or whatever, I think that that's very encouraging, because that means that there is a possibility for a band like ours to continue doing what we love and continue to have a lot of fun for many years to come.
If my 25 years old myself would see me now, I think he would just think he saw somebody else. Because I mean, even to this day, I have, you know, hard time understanding how things are for us now. And even sometimes, you know, you just sit and you start thinking about your life and you're like, is this really true?
If an 18-year-old me could see me today, he would probably say, hey, that's a pretty cool life you have there, but god damn, you're old.
I could never have imagined being where I am today when I was like 25 I don't remember who it was in the band, but one guy said, you know, if we haven't made it somewhere before we're 30, you know, we have to quit the band. You know, we can't play death metal when we're 30. That's super old. The kind of the feeling you had when you were young.
If I could go back in time to talk to the younger me, I would say, don't stress out so fucking much. Things will work out. You know, you don't have to be in such a fucking hurry all the time.
Det är dags